At 60, Tom Cruise Hollywood's unstoppable force has finally decided to speak the truth about the 5 people who wounded him the most. For decades, he was the man who defied gravity on screen, leapt across skyscrapers, and walked away from explosions without a scratch. But off-screen, there were blows far more damaging than any stunt could ever be, blows to his trust, his heart, and his sense of loyalty. "They thought my silence meant I'd forgotten," he says with an icy calm. "I didn't forget. I just waited." These betrayals came from all corners of his life: an old friend who cashed in on his secrets, a mentor who turned competitor, a love who chose the spotlight over him, a business partner who played a dangerous double game, and someone so close that the wound still aches decades later. For years, Tom kept these stories locked away, convinced that speaking them would only feed the fire. But now, he's ready to open the door to name the names, reveal the moments, and explain how each betrayal changed him forever. The question is, why now? And once the truth is out, will Hollywood ever look at him the same way again? Thomas Cruise Mapother IV was born on the 3rd of July, 1962, in Syracuse, New York. His childhood was marked by instability, constantly moving from town to town as his family chased work and tried to escape financial strain. His father, an electrical engineer, was both distant and unpredictable, leaving young Tom to rely on his own resilience. By the age of 14, he had attended nearly 15 different schools, never staying long enough to form lasting friendships. At first, acting wasn't his dream. He considered becoming a priest, a wrestler, anything that would give him a sense of belonging. But a small role in a high school play shifted everything. For the first time, he felt seen. At 18, he left home with little more than a suitcase and ambition, heading to New York City to chase something bigger. Hollywood came calling fast. In 1981, a brief role in Taps put him on the radar. By 1983, risky business made him the face of a generation. Then came Top Gun, a global phenomenon that cemented his status as the ultimate leading man. The 1992nd brought critical acclaim with Born on the 4th of July, A Few Good Men, The Firm, and Jerry Maguire. His ability to blend blockbuster appeal with award-worthy performances made him untouchable. Yet behind the flawless smile and the record-breaking box office numbers, the pressure was immense. Industry politics, media speculation, and whispers about his private life shadowed every success. Hollywood adored him on screen, but in closed-door meetings, some viewed him as a threat too powerful, too independent, too unwilling to bend to the unspoken rules. Tom learned early that fame could make people love you, but it could also make them jealous. And in his case, some of those jealous people were close enough to shake his hand, while quietly plotting his fall. Mark Ellison, a fellow struggling actor Tom met in the early 1982nd, when both were hustling for auditions in Los Angeles. They had shared the same cramped apartments, split cheap meals, and celebrated every small victory together. Mark had seen Tom's life before the fame, the rejections, the exhaustion, the late-night doubts. They once promised each other that no matter how big they got, they'd remain loyal. That promise didn't last. In 1992, fresh off the success of A Few Good Men, Tom confided in Mark about a personal struggle, something deeply private, tied to his family and mental well-being. Weeks later, that exact story appeared on the front page of a major tabloid, framed as an exclusive insider tell. All. The quotes were almost word for word what Tom had shared over a quiet dinner. The betrayal hit like a punch to the chest. The article painted him as controlling, paranoid, and incapable of trust. Overnight, the tone of studio meetings shifted. Producers began probing him about his temperament. Gossip shows dissected his personality like it was public property. When Tom confronted him, Mark didn't deny it. "It's just business, man. Everyone's got a price," he said, shrugging like it was nothing. For Tom, it was everything. From that day, Tom's inner circle shrank drastically. He stopped inviting certain people to his home, stopped sharing personal thoughts unless absolutely necessary. He had learned his first hard truth about Hollywood success. The higher you rise, the more some will see your trust as a currency to be sold. As Tom later put it in a rare interview, I thought he was my friend. Turns out, he was just waiting for the right offer. Richard Halpern, an acclaimed director who had been one of Tom's earliest champions in Hollywood. Richard gave Tom his first serious dramatic role in the late 1982nd, guiding him through the nuances of emotional performance and pushing him beyond his comfort zone. Tom often credited him as the first man in Hollywood who believed I could be more than a movie star. Their relationship was built on trust and mutual respect. Richard was a sounding board for script choices, and Tom even considered him family, often inviting him to private celebrations. But by the mid-1992nd, Tom's career trajectory had shifted. He was moving into producing, taking more creative control, and securing financial stakes in his projects. That power, it seemed, began to unsettle Richard. In 1996, they were slated to collaborate on a high-profile thriller that could have been a defining project for both. But behind the scenes, Richard began holding private meetings with studio executives, painting Tom as impossible to work with and a liability for the studio's reputation. His goal became clear: to push Tom out and take the film forward with another leading man. Tom found out when a sympathetic producer slipped him copies of internal memos. Seeing Richard's words accusing him of ego, paranoia, and sabotage was a shock deeper than any tabloid rumor. This wasn't gossip from an outsider. It was an ambush from someone he had once trusted implicitly. When Tom confronted him, Richard didn't deny it. "You were getting too big, Tom," he said flatly. "You forgot who made you." The project collapsed soon after, leaving Tom with a bitter lesson. In Hollywood, mentors can turn into competitors overnight, and sometimes, the people who teach you how to climb are the first to try and pull you down. As Tom reflected years later, I learned that loyalty here has an expiration date. Usually, the moment you become more powerful than the person who gave you a hand. Rachel Myers, a rising actress Tom met in the early 2002, when both were attending a private charity gala in Beverly Hills. She was magnetic, quick-witted, stunning, and seemingly uninterested in Hollywood gossip. For Tom, who was coming off a string of grueling shoots, Rachel felt like a safe harbor. They kept their romance mostly private, avoiding red carpets and high-profile events, preferring quiet getaways far from the paparazzi's lens. At first, it seemed she understood him better than anyone. She knew the pressures of fame, the importance of controlling the narrative, and the pain of seeing personal matters twisted by the media. But as Rachel's career began to plateau, she started hinting at wanting more visibility as a couple. The shift came subtly: small comments in interviews, playful anecdotes that hinted at their life together. But then came the breaking point. A primetime talk show appearance where she revealed intimate details about Tom's personality, his private routines, and even moments of vulnerability he had shared in confidence. She painted him as hyper-controlling and living in a bubble, feeding the exact stereotypes the tabloids loved to exploit. The backlash was swift. Within days, headlines screamed about Tom's alleged paranoia and emotional walls. Studio calls became cautious, and his PR team went into damage control. The woman he thought would protect him from Hollywood's exploitation had, in his eyes, become part of it. When Tom confronted her, Rachel's response was chilling in its casualness. "This is the business, Tom. If we don't give them something, they'll take everything." For Tom, it wasn't just a relationship ending, it was a rupture in his ability to trust anyone with his personal life. Love, he realized, could be weaponized, and sometimes the sharpest knife is held by the person you let closest to your heart. As he would later admit to a close friend, "I could take the lies from strangers, but when the truth is twisted by someone you love, that's a wound that never fully heals." Daniel Cross, a seasoned Hollywood dealmaker who became Tom's business partner in the late 2002. Daniel was sharp, connected, and seemingly loyal. Together, they built a production company that gave Tom unprecedented creative control. Daniel handled the business end, freeing Tom to focus on scripts, performances, and stunts that pushed the limits of what an action star could do. For years, the partnership seemed unshakable. They had rescued Mission Impossible 3 from a near financial disaster, secured distribution deals on Tom's terms, and kept their company independent in an industry dominated by studio conglomerates. Tom trusted Daniel so completely that he often let him negotiate multi-million-dollar contracts without his direct oversight. That trust began to crack when Tom noticed strange delays in a co-production deal for a major sci-fi epic. Studio meetings were being rescheduled, offers seemed to be evaporating overnight, and rival producers suddenly knew alarming details about Tom's plans, details only Daniel had access to. The truth came out when a junior executive leaked a series of internal emails. Daniel had been meeting privately with rival studios, offering them inside information about Tom's budget demands, creative preferences, and upcoming projects. The aim was calculated to undermine Tom's leverage, slow down his projects, and position Daniel as a more manageable producing partner for the industry. When confronted, Daniel didn't flinch. "It's just strategy, Tom," he said. "You have to play both sides in this business." For Tom, the betrayal cut deeper than any contract dispute. It wasn't just the loss of a project, it was the realization that someone he had built up and defended in boardrooms was quietly dismantling him and others. As he would later reflect, in Hollywood, a handshake can be worth $1 million, or it can be the knife in your back, and you don't know which until it's too late. William "Will" Mapother, Tom's cousin, but more like a brother. They grew up side by side, sharing cramped bedrooms during family visits, enduring the same chaotic childhood that left both of them hungry for stability. When Tom found success, he pulled Will into the industry, helping him land acting roles and introducing him to producers who might otherwise never have taken his calls. For years, it seemed like a shared dream. They even worked together on a few films, and Tom often spoke proudly about keeping it in the family. But as Will tried to carve out his own identity, jealousy began to creep in. Industry insiders noticed that Will was quick to complain about being in Tom's shadow. The rupture came during the height of Tom's fame in the mid-2002. A high-profile magazine published a damning feature about Tom questioning his personal life, his beliefs, and his relationships. Buried deep in the article were quotes from an anonymous family source, painting him as manipulative, controlling, and obsessed with his public image. The wording was unmistakably Will's. Tom didn't want to believe it, but when a journalist he trusted confirmed the leak, there was no denying the truth. The betrayal wasn't just professional, it was blood turning against blood. In Hollywood, colleagues might turn on you for a role. Friends might sell you out for a paycheck, but family was supposed to be untouchable. The fallout was immediate and deeply personal. Tom cut off all business ties with Will and stopped attending extended family gatherings. He withdrew from certain public appearances, retreating to a smaller, more tightly controlled inner circle. In private, Tom described the moment as the day my definition of family died. He later told a confidant, "You can lose a role, a deal, or even a friend. But when someone you've loved like a brother turns your life into their ticket to relevance, there's no coming back from that." That betrayal didn't just change the way Tom viewed Hollywood, it changed the way he viewed human nature. And it remains, even now, the wound that never fully closed. Today, Tom Cruise stands as one of the most recognizable figures in the world. His films still dominate the box office, his stunts still defy belief, and his name still draws crowds. But the man behind the marquee has been reshaped not just by triumphs, but by the betrayals that carve deep lines into his trust. He no longer measures success solely in opening weekend numbers or critical acclaim. Instead, it's about the small, quiet victories, projects made with people who have earned their place beside him, moments of genuine connection that can't be bought or staged. The inner circle he keeps now is small by design, and every person in it has been tested in ways the public will never see. "I'm not telling these stories to settle scores," Tom says, his gaze unwavering. "I'm telling them because for years I let people believe a version of me that wasn't the truth. I've forgiven myself, but not them." To those who have followed his journey, the message is clear. Even the most untouchable star can bleed, and even the strongest heart can be scarred. But scars, Tom believes, are proof of survival. And if you've ever been betrayed, used, or underestimated, Tom wants you to know you're not alone, and you're not finished. Now that you've heard the truth, the question is, which of these 5 betrayals shocked you the most? Was it the friend who sold his secrets? The mentor who tried to erase him? The love who chose the spotlight? The partner who played both sides? Or the family member who turned his pain into a headline? Share your thoughts in the comments below and let us know which moment cut the deepest. Your voice matters in keeping these stories alive. If you believe the truth should be heard, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss what comes next. Because in our next episode, we reveal the one woman Tom Cruise feared more than anyone else in Hollywood and why her shadow still lingers over his career to this day. Are you ready for that story?